The Volkswagen Bora is the fourth generation of the Volkswagen Golf-based saloon car. The Bora was introduced in 1999, which was actually 2 years later than the Mk4 Golf. So there was a little bit of a delay before you could get your hands on the Bora saloon car. First of all, it's got a boot on the back, you might have noticed. That is actually adding 100 kilos of weight to this car. So the dynamics of the Bora are changed somewhat over the Golf, and I'll talk about that in a second. Now, the other thing is that the front end of this car is actually different to the Golf as well. I never really noticed this, but it is significantly a different face to what you'd expect from the Golf, and many people prefer it. They think it looks slightly smarter and more interesting. The name Bora, that comes from a wind, much like many of other Volkswagen cars. It's the wind that blows over the Adriatic Sea and Greece, Russia, Turkey and Bulgaria. Previously, this car in its third generation guise was called the Vento in the UK. This current generation is also known as the Jetta in the US. In America, the name was quite popular, Jetta name, so they kept it. The rear doors are not the same as the Golf, so you can't swap them around between Golf and Bora, but many of the other body panels, such as the front doors and so on, are exchangeable. What that boot does, now normally I would complain about extra weight with a car, but what it does in this car is that it actually shifts the centre of gravity of the car back slightly, so you're getting closer to 50-50 weight distribution, which you wouldn't get with the standard Golf. That means that the car actually, in theory, handles better than the Golf. It's also slightly more aerodynamic as well. So there are advantages to the Bora that you would not immediately expect. So this Bora started out life in 2003 as a 1.9 TDI 130 brake horsepower variant with the ST trim level. So it was kind of like the sort of sportier range, equivalent to the Golf GT TDI. In terms of creature comforts, it's got air conditioning, but there's no cruise control in this ST model either. I realised later when it started chucking it down that it has automatic rain sensing wipers. It's got the cup holders in this car, which the Golf that I drove didn't have. Now, they don't fit this big bottle, the big fat bottom bottle. So like the Golf, there was a plethora of engines available, but they did chop off both the lower end and upper end of available engines. So there was no 1.4 litre petrol, and there was no 3.2 litre V6 at the other end. But otherwise, you had all the same engines available, from a 1.6 litre petrol through all the different PD engines, and then you had the VR5 and VR6 as well. So there was a lot to choose from. You could get the Bora with a 5 or 6-speed manual gearbox or a 4-speed automatic, and it was available with the 4Motion 4-wheel drive as well. There was an estate version, but in the UK that's just the Golf estate. So in terms of your daily experience of driving this car, just around town and your normal kind of driving, the steering is fairly heavy at lower speeds, but that's only in comparison with modern electric power steering systems. It's not actually that heavy. The gear shift is really nice. I suspect it might be the 6-speed gearbox here, but it's actually even slicker than the 5-speed that I was driving in the Golf, so it's an absolute pleasure to row through the gears. The clutch engages really nicely, and it's just a very easy car to drive, and I imagine it very relaxing to do long distance in. Now with the extra weight as well, you're going to get that motorway hunkered down solidity thing going on as well. Visibility is quite nice in this car. The C-pillars are not too fat, so you don't get too much of a blind spot back there, and you've a lot of glass around you, and it feels like the Golf. It feels quite open and airy. It feels somehow slightly sportier and more compact, but I mean that's an illusion because it is the same size as the Golf, only a little bit longer. It's got that same nice indicator solidity, feels nice to use. The boot is a really good size, but what struck me was the complex gas strut hinge and weightiness of the boot lid. A very light touch is all that is needed to close it fully. When I did the Golf video, the number of comments I had about how many miles these cars have got on them really did blow me away. Now I know that the PD engine is capable of 300,000 or 400,000 or 500,000 miles if it's looked after, but I wasn't expecting quite so many people to get in touch and say that theirs had done all those miles. So it's absolutely been backed up with the numbers that these cars with these engines will just run and run and run. Now this particular car, it's no exception. It's done 229,813 miles. The owner, Ben, who's very kindly brought it up to me, regularly does huge journeys in this car. He's done 100,000 miles in it himself since he got it, and during that time he's had to replace the mass airflow sensor, and that is it. What can I say? They're clearly, engine-wise, incredibly well built. Now, it's an old car, it's 20 years old, and there are a few little electrical gremlins going on, not like at the moment I can't get out of this door without putting my hand out the window and opening it from outside. I think we can let the car off. It's otherwise in pretty good condition. Now, it's rattling a bit in here, as you might be able to hear on the camera, but I'm going to put that down to the fact that this hasn't got exactly standard suspension. I'll talk about the modifications later, but this car isn't 100% standard. So what's it like in the back seats of the Bora? How much space is there? Let's find out and ask backseat JJ, what is it like back there? Well, with the seat set for him, the leg room's a bit limited. He's 6 foot and I'm 6 foot, and my feet and legs are just like jammed in a bit. It's otherwise pretty good. Like, the headroom's nice and it feels open and spacious and airy, and it's just a nice place to sit for a while. And there's cup holders down here, and in the armrest built in, you can push it and they come popping out. If you're liking this video about the Bora and you think that more people should see it, then please do hit that like button. Standardly, the car puts out 130 horsepower. That PD 130 engine had 130 horsepower and it did 0 to 60 in 9.8 seconds. So it was perfectly adequate, quite a nice performer. But now, when I put my foot down, it's got so much more power. I think we're talking closer to 250 horsepower now. So it's had a bunch of stuff done. The turbo's been swapped out for a hybrid turbo. It's got a different intercooler. The brakes have been done. It's got nice tyres on it. It's lower. For a start, it makes this car into a properly quick sleeper. Secondly, the handling is really vastly improved. In standard form, the Mk4 Bora is much like the Golf to drive. It is softly sprung and more set up for comfort than handling. Obviously, nothing can really be done with this steering. It's still quite woolly. It's not sharp steering, but in terms of everything else, the car now feels planted. It feels flat around the corners. It has been converted into a car that is quite pleasing to drive. It kind of doesn't feel like a diesel. The way this performs, it revs out. You can really rev it out, and the power's always there, like from quite low down to quite high up. The thing is, when you're cruising on the motorway in this car, despite having 200 plus horsepower, it'll actually still get over 50 miles per gallon, which is pretty impressive. I mean, you have to drive it carefully. If you've got a Volkswagen Bora, please do get in touch and let me know in the comments what you think of it and whether you sort of prefer it over the Golf and why you picked it over a Golf. I'd be interested to know. A little feature that this car's got that I didn't have in the Golf is the armrest in the middle. Kind of gets in the way of the handbrake, so you can fold it up and down, and you want that down when you're on the motorway, because then you just leave it in sixth and cruise with your arm on it. Here's a reason that I would choose the Bora over the Golf, and that's it's rarer. I've not really seen any. Once I'd done that Golf video, I just started seeing Mk4 Golfs everywhere. Like, it's amazing how many there are still on the roads. But because they didn't sell quite so many of the Bora, it's a much more rare car. So that's always a plus point for me. Another big thanks to Ben for bringing this car to the channel. Now, if anyone else is out there, they've got literally any car that they want to see on this channel, and you're based in the UK somewhere, please do get in touch, Instagram, email, and we can get your car on the channel. That's the Volkswagen Bora. It's quite different in many ways to the Golf that you wouldn't expect. So definitely worth a consideration if you're looking for a Mk4 Golf. Don't discount this car. It definitely has its advantages. Now, if you want the practicality and the big boot of a hatchback, obviously go for the Golf. But if you want something that's actually slightly better to drive and more unusual, then the Bora is your friend. If you want to see the review of the Mk4 Golf that I did, click up there. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.